That is lovely. What is that?
Little Campus Ink NIL ice shaker. Yeah.
Gronk, if you're listening to this, is our podcast sponsored by Ice Shaker now? First unofficial endorsement, but great drinkware if you need drinkware, ice shakers. Sean, what are you wearing?
For those that don't know, today was the holiday party, of course. Did a little Secret Santa, so I'm wearing a little festive sweater.
Is that a Budweiser?
And a turtleneck. It is a Budweiser. I always forget what it actually said.
First person to stand up on a podcast. That's a dangerous thing to do.
Dangerous thing to do.
So for those who are not watching and just listening, Sean is wearing a legendary ugly Christmas sweater combined turtleneck, which I was joking with him as a University of Maryland grad. I was like, is that part of your admission requirements? You got to wear a turtleneck twice a week.
Classic.
You look sharp, Sean.
Joke. Thank you. My neck is extremely warm.
But so is the turtleneck connected to the sweater?
No, it's a separate entity.
You wore both of them. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a little Under Armour thing right there.
Yeah, the little mock turtleneck branding.
Generally the way it goes, yeah.
It's weird because we're recording these in the evening now. Well, it's 4:15, but it feels like it's 10 p.m. at night.
We talked about this last week, and actually I saw last week at 4:15, I think it was at the peak of earliest it will be dark, and now we're back on the upswing.
We're on the other side of the equinox. This is when you get to, there's like two versions of the Midwest. It's like the sun setting at 4 version and then every other version. And we're heading back towards the light. Now we're on the upswing.
So guys, it's been, welcome back to everyone for another episode of the NIL show with our two special co-hosts, Sean and Adam. It's been a wild week. It has been a wild week. You guys both were in Champaign.
At separate times.
At separate times the last 2 weeks. What's the perspective like of seeing it all go down?
I'll let you go first, Sean.
No, I always think it's really cool. We're up here in Chicago, kind of on the front end of things, almost on the sales side, marketing side, gathering schools, getting people on board. But to actually see how the sausage is made is always very eye-opening. And it's cool just to meet all the people who are making things happen for you. You know, you see our design team up here working on the designs, and then you actually see them being printed out right there in front of your very eyes. Or you see an athlete that you were working to get signed for weeks, and then you see their jersey or jersey or whatever it might be being printed out, and you're just holding it and you're like, wow, we made this happen. We made this come to life. And so to see that end of things, I always find fascinating. And it's always just a really cool experience.
Yeah. It's easy to kind of get into the weeds, and you miss the forest for the trees sometimes, of just, trying to get everybody on board and get stuff up and launch new schools and all this stuff. And it's really neat to be able to walk through the production floor and kind of all at once see the different things that we have going on. You've got Virginia Tech stuff getting printed, U of I, Indiana, San Diego. Like there's just this huge mix of colors and designs and athletes and phrases. And it's really cool to see the physical product come to life. And I think it's something that's really special that we do at Campus Ink. I was just talking with somebody, especially when you're in licensed apparel, being able to be the ones that do the decoration and make sure it's exactly right. As a steward of that intellectual property, we take a lot of pride in how we manage that brand, how we execute on that brand. And it's cool to see how our production facility takes that so seriously and is really important to us.
And it's something... Let's put it this way. We're iterating on it every single day. The one part about us is we are producing the stuff and actually putting it in bags. What guys, from your perspective, what's a misconception that you didn't know about the printing industry that now you've actually seen it happen? Adam, you've been in the space a little bit longer. I'm curious to hear from you, Sean.
Ooh, that's a really good question. You put me on the spot here. Now I can't think of an answer.
I think for me, I'll give you a little bit of buffer time, Sean. I think for me, it was and still is all of the steps it takes to do something that seems so simple. And you think about a t-shirt and it's like, well, it's Amazon, turn that around in 24 hours, 48 hours. And it's like, well, that's a blank piece, and then it's a decoration, and then it's shipping. And to get all of those pieces right in the right place at the right time is a lot of really hard work, and takes a lot of really smart people to come together and pull that off.
Yeah. And I guess for me, like I'm somebody who has zero previous experience working in retail or print. So my experience was going onto a website and finding a t-shirt that I liked and ordering it, and a magic elf would print it and ship it and make it happen and be on my doorstep in a week. I never knew all the stuff that went on behind the scenes. And there's so many different hands in the pot, people that are involved with QCing, and especially what we're doing, where it's really customized for every single athlete. And so I think that part is fascinating, just creating every single back for every athlete. They each have their own unique number. They each have their own unique last name. And so there's just so many different areas that people are involved in that have to be QC'd and make sure they're correct.
And I mean, I think we're figuring, like, there's a little bit, so we are customizing every single item. So literally every item, like there are no two SKU. I mean, if you think about a shirt, you have the shirt, the style, the color, the size, and then you have the front design, and then the player's back design name, and then the player's number. And then if you add two more products to that, it makes it complex. I think, Adam, like full transparency, we're working through it, but we've definitely had some growing pains for sure. Sure. Just things that were like, oh, okay. We didn't think through that a little bit, but I will say something that was pretty funny. So there's this whole thing of like color matching that's very particular in licensed space. And it's really hard to teach color theory and how Pantones work and CMYK and, what's national red versus cardinal red and crimson. But what we do know is that our schools are very particular about colors. Adam, do you want to, if I saw Adam running around yesterday with a color card book, like the one from Sherwin-Williams, and jerseys. Yeah. And then he'd hit one and be like, got it. Yes. Yeah. All right. That one's good for Arkansas. Next. Can you tell us what you were doing yesterday? Because I think it was fascinating, just for a couple more minutes until we dive in.
Yeah, no, it is. It's fascinating. And it's one of those like weirdly satisfying things. So schools have very particular brand colors. It's one of the most recognizable things about their brands. And you see this on social media and Instagram all the time, and, flip-flop brand colors and whatever. And so getting that right is crucial to be a good partner, but also as a fan, like you want to wear the right color. But there isn't just this like magic button that you push and the color works on every medium, every garment type. I kind of explained it to my wife, like if you go to the paint store and you get a little paint, swatch card, they tell you to take it home and hold it up against the wall and then go to a different room and hold it up against that wall because it looks different everywhere you go. Apparel and jersey colors are kind of the same way. And so when we sample and go to launch a new school, we have to bring in a range of, kind of bracket what that Pantone color, that like true color of that brand is, to make sure that we nail it exactly right. Because if you're a couple shades off, your fans are going to recognize it for sure. And so that's what I was doing yesterday, was kind of taking that Pantone book, which is the Bible, the gospel, and running around and making sure that everything that we bracketed, every last accent color on every jersey we do is what we call Pantone perfect.
Yeah. So it was pretty cool. It's pretty cool to see Adam, 6-7 months ago to now. He's got color cards. I mean, no one, we don't have a product manager that is building these jerseys. We're doing it ourselves a little bit. And so it's been pretty fascinating to watch y'all starting to get really good at it. Which is funny. Sean, you were going to say something.
Yeah. No, it is fascinating. I just wanted to ask you, Steven, because I'm so curious to just hear from your standpoint. And I think the average person would like to know, today's December 15th. What is this time of year like for you down in a production facility? You've been through many of these holiday seasons, but what's it like? How would you describe it?
You know, I would love to say that every employee loves coming to work during the holidays, but this is where these are just the unsung heroes that are coming to work every day, because every day they come in, there are 1,000 more orders to get out. And when the phones ring, someone's upset because, UPS is taking a couple days and they're letting us have it. So it's great because we get to obviously, put a bunch of gifts under Christmas trees and stuff like that. But it is a pretty intense time. I mean, the shop is running probably 16, 17 hours a day. I think the team's worked every weekend for the last 3 weeks. And there's good days and there's bad days, and then every day there's a new surprise, right? And what I remind all my friends in every space is be nice to your post office workers this time of the year, nice to your FedEx drivers, your UPS drivers. If you're calling in Amazon because something's not right, be cool about it, because, things are going to happen, right? We say if we are 99% perfect, that means one out of every 100 orders, there could be a mistake. And if you're shipping out 1,000 orders a day, that could be 10, right? And that's if we were 99% perfect. And I don't expect students in school to be 99% perfect. But for some reason, when we call Amazon, we expect them to be 99.9999% perfect. And we are ruthless if they don't think. So there's my PSA for the holidays. Thank you, Sean, for asking. Sorry to go on a rant. So we had an awesome episode last week. We dove into a lot of different things, and we're going to probably have some branch off episodes just from it because there were just so many ways that it could go. But we were just kind of chatting about it. I was like, let's dig into a couple things that we talk about a lot at Campus Inc., but to really understand why we're doing it, how we're doing it. And Sean, you brought up our payment payout model, and I think this is a really hot topic. So we'll let you lead because this is something. This is coming from your fingers on the keys today. Yeah, so what do you got?
Yeah. No, well, I just think that I think we have a really impressive payout model. And I think I'd argue that we offer the best commission rates to our athletes in the country. And I don't know that many can compete with it, but there's a lot of things that have to happen on our end to make that happen. And I don't know that that everyone fully understands how that breakdown works. And so to be honest, I just want to start from the beginning because I wasn't part of those original conversations. Steven and Adam, I assume it was the two of you who were having those initial conversations on what we can offer athletes. Or Steven,
this time last year. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, about a year ago. So what were those initial conversations like?
Shoot. Adam, I'm curious to hear. I have a lot of opinions. I want to hear from you.
Shocker. Well, as I remember it, I remember getting a text message from you when the legislation first started. We've told this story a little bit, but there were some coaches reaching out, wanting to do stuff and whatever. And I remember asking you, well, what's your priority? Because there's going to be a lot of people who just kind of want to jump into the space because it's hot. But the thing that will set somebody apart is actually helping the student athlete from a financial standpoint and giving them real opportunity. And that was always your phrase, like real money was your phrase, which is,
you told me like, hey, let's stop using real money because all money is real.
I don't know what that means, but I get it, right? Like we want to make them, good money. We don't want it to be, pennies on the dollar. And so that really came from you of just having a desire. And you say this a lot too, like this is our thesis here of how we're building the NIL stores is we want it to be a profitable and beneficial opportunity, not just, I did an NIL thing. And so I think it's a really big value add of us being able to handle it all in-house and not be paying, 6 or 7 people out on every step of the way. We contract out our printing. We contract out our designs. We don't actually ever talk to the athletes. We do all the licensing through something else. Like we take a lot of ownership over every step of the process for that purpose so that we can ensure we keep the athlete at the forefront of a lot of those earnings, since it is their name, image, and likeness that we're using.
So Adam, you and I modeled it out. Actually, we're like, could we run a company that actually doesn't work with the shirts, that it was actually a separate company? And if you remember, we kept coming to the conclusion that there's just not enough in there to make it happen. And so we said, remember, we're like, we could start a new company.
We tried it 3 different ways.
And so then I just said, like, it's got to run through Campus Inc. if this is going to work. It's got to be a vertically integrated brand if it's going to work. And we have to be okay with charging a premium.
Yep.
This cannot be a discount t-shirt company.
Yep.
Because there's just not enough in there to make it to do that, right? Like, at the end of the day, Campus Inc. is a for-profit company. I do have a paycheck. You all have paychecks too. We, no one's flying private yet, but we need jobs. This is our livelihood. So I think my big thing is that we have been paying college students out for the last 7 years. And they are incentivized to sell B2B orders. They make anywhere 10, 12, 15% on their stuff. And if I don't pay them well, they're not motivated.
Right.
And I think we looked at it and we said, how do we motivate? Like, what's the hook? How do we make an athlete's eyes light up? Because if their eyes don't light up, then I'm not excited about it, but then it just won't work.
Yeah.
And like, I always say, like, if we're going to sell something, what's the hook? What is the, like, I feel good about this, and it's got some gumption to it. And I think we just said it best. Like, I don't care about 4 or 5%. If our students selling Greek stuff made 4 or 5%, I just wouldn't care about it. And I looked at how much money I made in college selling merch. That's exactly what I would do. I'd set up pre-orders. I would take the difference, go buy it for cheaper, distribute them on campus. And that got me so excited in college. So like, knowing that we've got our students, knowing that 4 or 5% isn't going to make us make anyone happy, knowing that, like, what is that number? And I think we proved it out with Brandon Pajemski. I think that was the hook. Like, we did it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who, by the way, is having an awesome season at Santa Clara. Congrats, Brandon.
Yeah. Shout out Pods. The other thing that really proved, and we talked about this, from your merchandise background and my athletics background. The other thing that we were looking at was like, okay, I played men's volleyball. Very few people care about men's volleyball. If you're a men's volleyball athlete, yes, I do. And you're going to look at, 4 or 5% on a t-shirt, to your point of those eyes lighting up. It's like, well, why would I do this? Right. So then why does the school care about that? It's like, well, we want everybody to be excited about this. And to your point with the Brandon Pajemski thing, at that point, he was a freshman. He was a walk-on, if I'm remembering correctly. And it was really early on in the academic year. The season hadn't even started.
We couldn't even sell Illini stuff then with his name on it.
So we did it wasn't even we, it was you, because that was before I came on. You guys did something for his high school.
Yeah, it was his high school jersey. He made like $10 a piece. And I just told him and his dad, hey, this is what you're going to make. We're going to sell the jersey for this much. We should donate some money back to the high school. And we're going to do that because no one's going to buy your Illini stuff yet, because no one knows who you are, right? Or no one cares. No one cares yet, right? And we had a plan, and I think he sold 60 or 70 jerseys. We made him $600, $500. Sweet.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I don't know the exact amount, right? But that was like, okay, it worked. Let's do it again. Okay, it worked. Let's do it again.
It really sounds to me, Steven, like what kind of set you apart and gave you that perspective. You talked about it was those 7 years of already working and empowering students to develop students as marketers, to be their own marketers and salesmen. And I think, and you can clarify, Steven, but it sounds like that really is the model. Like, working with athletes is no different than working with students who are selling.
Well, who's our most recent creative account manager? Jason Wood.
That's
Jason
right.
Wood.
He made bank in college. He made bank in college selling merch to his frat. And he believed in it enough, and now he's back working with athletes, right? But here's something that's interesting. I was at a dinner on Monday, and we were going around icebreakers, and they're like, okay, tell us something interesting about your industry, or a fact about your industry. And I said something. I said, I don't know if this is true or not, but I bet you TikTok influencers make more on their merch than the average professional athlete in terms of like how much revenue they bring. Adam, can you fact check me?
Yeah, that'd take me a bit, but I don't think you're actually as far off as some people might think. If you're talking about
besides
averages,
like LeBron James, right? Like,
right, you take out those outliers. Yeah, I mean, influencing is a very lucrative through merchandise is a very lucrative venture for sure.
Influencing and brand loyalty.
If you're a TikTok influencer that has 1 million followers, I've seen them run massive merch companies, right? And do crazy drops and all that stuff. If you're a wide receiver on the Eagles, you're going to get a little payout from the PA, right? Unless you have someone running your own private brand or something like that. What the NFL is going to give you isn't crazy, right?
Right. Yeah. But that's where this kind of like solidified for us is as we saw that pro model continue to try to be applied at the collegiate level. It was like, well, that works at the pro level because they have a players union. There's a collectively bargained agreement that they've all kind of arbitrated and come to a consensus on that takes into account the fact that they're getting salary, the fact that they're getting, potentially pension benefits, the fact that they're getting all of these other things that come along with that. No one's sitting at the table for student athletes right now collectively bargaining for them. There's no players union that's collectively bargaining for them. So to take that small percentage of a model that at the pro level, they call it a sweetener, right? Because it's a sweetener, whatever. You're getting your contract, you're getting your benefits. And just say, oh, you get the same thing as a college athlete. It just didn't make any sense. It's like that's not the same route. So why would we try to
You can't use a sweetener if you don't have if you're not making any money to play. There's nothing to sweeten up. All you got is
exactly.
the spend up.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, why would we try to use the same model there? It has proved to be a very, to your point from the beginning, when we want to make athletes' eyes light up, they do, and it works.
So, without giving away the secret sauce, can you guys deep dive into that breakdown of how we pay out the athletes and the rest of the payouts?
Sure. It's a rev share. So everything is on a rev share. The more the athlete sells, the more money they're going to make. The better the athlete is on the court, the more merch they're probably going to sell, right? So Adam had an awesome article and on 3 that was fantastic, but it's a very simple model. It's somewhere around $8 from a t-shirt, that's the low, all the way up to $15 a jersey and everything in between. Adam, you wanna dive into it more?
Yeah, and that really is it. It's somewhere in that $8 to $15 range. We're very proud of that, and it's something that we try to celebrate and communicate to the athletes very clearly. This is how much you can earn. When we do the custom, the limited releases, the custom drops. We want to incentivize them and encourage them to push that out to their fans because that only benefits them in the long run and teaches them about that digital marketing side of them building their brand without waiting until after they've graduated or after they get out of some crazy licensing deal to actually earn some money from it.
And if we're using a school's license, if we're using a school's license and we're using their logo on merch, is that affecting the payout for the athlete at all?
No, but the school still makes money. Now, what the schools have done is they have and oftentimes lowered their standard royalty rate to make room for the athletes to make money. So the schools are thinking about this strategically, right? And so if a school's normal royalty rate, call it 15%, they might say for NIL it's 12. Every school is different. Some schools don't have that policy, some do. It literally is completely different all across the board. But schools are accommodating for it. They're accommodating for it because they know there's new like stimulus in the market for it, and there's a new vertical there. But yeah, the schools are generating their licensing fee no differently than they would elsewhere.
And to your point, Sean, that is an important distinction, because there is, I don't expect the average person to know everything about the royalties and the ins and outs of how all this kind of stuff works. And, it was a time that I didn't before I learned it, but
I didn't know it until like last January.
But there is, some sort of an idea of like, and we even get this from the student athletes sometimes, like, oh, it doesn't carry university marks, so, it doesn't cost as much, or, oh, it does carry university marks, so I'm not going to make as much. And it's like, no, you're going to make between $8 and $15, whether it's university license or not. And so for us to be able to partner with those universities, partner with the student athletes, create the licensed apparel that still pays them out that much, and generate a potential revenue stream for the institution is in my opinion, the way that NIL merchandise should work. Like, the athlete should be able to, when they sell something, do more than, put some quarters in the laundry machine, right? It should impact them in some way, and the school should still be able to make, their royalty off of the use of their intellectual property. That's how it should work.
And I think what's interesting here, we do work with the parents a lot. Say what it is. Like, a lot of times it's mom and dad and one of the athletes, or an agent and an athlete. This is true entrepreneurship, right? They are putting their hard work on the court and creating their brand and marketing. And in return, they are seeing an incremental amount for that. And that's the hustle, right? Like, that's the athletic hustle. That's why we want them to see on their phones how much money they make in real time. And that's why they're paid out, every week or every 2 weeks or whatever it is. Right.
Yeah. And
that's special. I'll talk to me, at least.
It is. And I wanted to talk about that piece about it specifically, as well as it's important to us as a part of this model to get the athlete their money more than once every, 6 months. Because again, if you think about your time in college and the window that you have in season, it's usually only 3 months. So if you're waiting 5-6 months to get your money and you have no idea, how much you're going to get or where your sales are at, you may get that check and look back and be like, oh, I wish I would have pushed it a little bit harder. Or I wish I would have put that link in my bio, or I wish I would have, and you've missed out on all of those opportunities, not just to earn, but to learn those lessons. And so if we can give them access to their sales data, their earning data in real time, sure, that's great. You can see it. It's exciting. It's cool. But you're also getting that learning development of, cause and effect of when I post on social media, when I put my link in my bio. There's just so much more value in that real-time lesson that is so important in the short window you have as a collegiate athlete.
I think the bottom line here is we're not cutting corners with our model at all when it comes to our athletes. The athletes are first in everything that we do. We're not doing necessarily unlicensed stuff. We're going through the schools, we're working through the schools, we're getting licenses, and we're still allowing our athletes to make as much money as they possibly can. And hopefully we're forcing others to follow our model, because ultimately it puts the athletes first. Steven, have you heard from anyone else in the industry, or Adam, anybody else in the industry that thinks that our model can't work?
Yes.
Yeah. I remember actually very early on, I was talking to a school that was working, with at this point it was like an NIL consultancy, because they didn't have an official NIL department. And I was just getting raked over the coals of like, there's no way you're paying the athlete that much. There's no way they're earning that much. It's never going to work. It's never going to blah, blah, blah. That doesn't make any sense. And I just had to stick to my guns. And Steven and I have been on plenty of calls where we just have to take it on the chin and say, nope, it's going to work. And for this story in particular, that gentleman is now a good partner of ours, and has seen that it does work and it's beneficial for everybody. And it is harder, to your point. We're not cutting corners. It is harder. It's more difficult. It takes more effort. It takes more commitment, but at every step of the way, it is worth it. And that's what we like to do.
Yeah. I mean, I've been told that a lot. And when you go back and you look at the dashboards and the numbers and you see you see like people buying merch for, call it not basketball and football. And you see a fan buying a piece of merch and then buying a completely different player's merch. Like you just know, you're like, it's working.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to Vegas, and maybe we'll have to start talking about that. We have a huge licensing tailgate show. We're going to have a massive booth in Vegas and talk to a lot of partners there. A lot of people that I actually just I went there innocently, like, just like, hey, I want to ask questions, and there's no way you're going to be able to model this. There's no way you're going to be able to do this. And when people keep saying that, you're doing something right.
Exactly. I feel like having watched you run Campus Inc., Steven, I feel like you have been told that's not going to work for many years with some of your crazy ideas and stuff. And it seems like every time it works.
You got to understand, we're in a simple business. We put a logo on a shirt and ship it out. Like, I always say this, we're not curing cancer. We are not brain scientists. We are taking a art on a shirt and getting it out and putting money in people's pockets. It can be done. There is a way to do it. And yes, we have an amazing NIL team. We have an amazing engineering team. We have an amazing accounting team, ops team. Yes, there are so many layers of the onion to peel back. I've been approached by people doing the same in the space saying, how are you doing it? And I'm like, I have a pretty kick-ass team. That is probably the easiest thing to just respond to people and be like, yeah, our squad's pretty cool. But yeah, and we'll continue to do that. And, hopefully, yes, we start to turn the industry around.
I have one other. This is just a memory that just always sticks in my head. Steven and I were on a meeting again. This was pretty early on, and we were kind of explaining how it works. And I remember they point blank asked us, just why? Why do you want to pay them that much? Because no one else was doing it, and still no one else is doing it. And it like got kind of quiet for a second, and I was waiting for the CEO to give his answer, and he was just like, it's the way it should be done. We just believe that's how much they can and should earn. And so we're going to do it. And I mean, we just haven't looked back since then.
Yeah. I always said, like, people ask me, like, I don't know, it just kind of feels right. My gut tells me it feels right. Yeah. My gut tells me it feels right. So we're just going to go with it. But that's all right. Okay. So let's, a lot of people ask me, I get questions. What is Learfield? What is a group licensing agreement? What are these things? Does Learfield compete with you? How does that? And I've actually got this question a couple times the last couple of weeks. Professor Cook, can you talk about what our association is with a company like Brandar Group, who has GLAs out there that do help the athletes, and what our relationship looks like with a Learfield or things like that, so that listeners can kind of understand that and how we do work with everyone?
Yeah, 100%. Agnosticism is the word that we kind of throw around in terms of, are they competitors? You don't want to work with them. When you get into licensed anything, merchandise, products, goods, commercials, broadcasts, there is intellectual property that is owned. So for our intents and purposes, we're talking about school logos. Well, the schools want people to use their logos because that creates a royalty for them and creates fans, creates revenue, etc. What they don't want to do is have to individually manage or work with every person that wants to use their logos. And so companies like Learfield, CLC, IMG, formerly, they are basically brand managers, we'll call them. So they're almost like the gatekeepers for these brands. And so they will vet licensees like Campus Inc. and make sure that, hey, not only are you using the marks in the right way, but you're an upstanding company. We answer a lot of questions when we're going through licensing processes about our FLA standing and are we a member and what are our supply chain? What does that look like? And so they handle a lot of that vetting process to make sure that you are up to the task of handling the brand the right way. And then the other piece of that question is like organizations like Brandar, One Team, and these group licensing agreements. So particularly in merchandise, there's kind of two ways that you can go about licensing products. So that's one-to-one. So that would be, me taking the effort to call you up, Steven, and saying, hey, I'm a licensee at University of Illinois. I'd like to work with you. We can have that one-to-one conversation. But the group license comes in place where it says, hey, we're going to have a large group, 3 or more people opt in to this pool. And instead of you having to have individual conversations with all these brands that want to work with you, we'll go out and have those conversations for you. And we'll make sure that they're using your name, image, and likeness the right way. We'll make sure that, they're a reputable company. And we're going to basically generate these opportunities for you. And all you have to do is collect a check, at any certain interval. We'll create the opportunity for you. And so it's more of an opt-in process versus like a, hey, I'm going to have this conversation with the brand. And it can, be a really great avenue for athletes. You look at trading cards as an example, right? You don't want to have to do an individual deal with every athlete across the country. You want to be able to have a group licensing agreement handle that piece. The video game is another big piece of it. And, jerseys are another great way to apply a group license.
Yeah, the poster that we did at Indiana, those kind of things. And so there are instances where we actually do, we work with the GLA. And when we think, okay, this is probably a better route to take the GLA this route. And, we're fortunate to have them also believe in it's not a this or that, it's an and conversation. We keep saying it's an and conversation. You should be able to use the GLA and have one-to-one deals, right? Mm-hmm. And to be able to co-license and to be able to, and I think that's what's funny. No one thinks it's all possible. No one thinks
exactly.
It's all possible.
Well, it's not possible when you get people looking out for themselves, but fortunately there are a lot of great partners that we found that all, they all want the same thing, and that's the benefit of the athlete. So
I was going to say, while you're on that topic, can you inject the agency? So like if, for instance, we're working with an agency, how does that work?
Yeah, great question.
While we're on top of hands being fed, because they are professionals.
Yeah.
And they have jobs to do.
Yeah, 100%. And, I think agencies or agents have been a really interesting topic of conversation as it relates to NIL. And to be fair, like any other kind of opportunistic landscape, there have been some bad actors that have popped up, and, there hasn't been a really great requirement of qualifications to be an agent. But we work with, fortunately, a lot of the best in the industry. And so what their role is kind of what I described with the GLA a little bit, is to go out and advocate for and find opportunities for their clients, the athletes. So how it works for us in our relationship is, we always want to speak directly with the athlete. It's really important from a creative standpoint for us. It's really important from a relationship standpoint from us. But that agent really kind of comes in as a trusted professional to ensure that the terms of the deals that we're signing are favorable for both parties, are legally enforceable, which there are a lot of contracts out there that aren't actually legally enforceable, and are kind of making sure that every step in the process doesn't get stalled. It continues to move on and advocate for the student athlete at every step of the way. And so we're really grateful for the agencies that we work with, and we've made some really great relationships. And you find those trusted partners, and they continue to bring us their athletes because they know, hey, you're not going to find a better deal than this. So it really is just finding those trusted partners that are professionals, that know how things should work, know what the industry standards are, and can advocate for you as you try to navigate this new space.
Sweet. Thanks for that little, I just think that was relevant. I want to switch gears for a second because Sean is like my CNN for the NCAA. Whenever I have a question about anything, I'm like, Sean, what's the lowdown on this? And he'll give me the whole breakdown. There's a new governor in town.
Well, the way it
Sean,
works is
what's
I break the news, and then we go to Professor Cook to give his analysis on the news. That's how it typically goes. But yeah,
you guys are retired, old, bearded, half bearded men, and your beards are falling out. You're gonna be on. You're gonna have your own sports show someday.
It's not just a podcast thing. Like, we were walking to lunch, and this is literally what happened. But yeah, I mean, we're coming up on time, so we can just run through it. Some quick hitters.
No, we got time. We got time. What do you got?
Well, I guess we should just be clear. Massive news in the NCAA today. Charlie Baker, who is the current governor of Massachusetts, was named as the successor for Mark Emmert as president of the NCAA. So massive news in the NCAA. Emmert, he's coming up at the end of his term. Baker, he's still the governor of Massachusetts right now. His second term concludes in January, and then he'll start in his new role with the NCAA on March 1st. He actually played basketball at Harvard in the late 70s, but he has no previous collegiate administrative experience. Pretty obvious the NCAA is positioning itself to make a stronger push for federal rules. But yeah, I mean, Adam, what do you think? What does this mean for the NCAA?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think anytime there's a big industry change in terms of your professional career, particularly from being in public politics, I think it's probably noteworthy and interesting to probably pay attention to. And to me, this indicates a little bit that the NCAA has gone through a lot of legislative challenges in the last 18 months, we'll say, and particularly has been sued multiple times for antitrust violations, right? And so what still hasn't come down in any of this NIL space is any sort of official legislation. And so I think as we look at the path forward in the next 5-10 years, whatever it may be, a lot of what I would see the NCAA's path forward to success are dependent on a number of key factors. One, do student athletes continue, or does their classification change to being employees? That would change things pretty significantly. How do these grants of rights deals continue to impact conference realignment, et cetera? And then obviously how do collectives function across state lines and in different areas. So there's a lot of things dependent on official legislation, and particularly the NCAA seeking out some sort of antitrust exemption. And so if that's what you're going to pursue, it would be really, really beneficial to have somebody at the helm who understands the political ecosystem, the political sphere, and has connections and knows how that world works. So my uneducated assessment or analysis is that probably is the play, and probably pretty wise in looking towards the next 5 to 10 years and what needs to get done at a federal level.
Yeah, and
this,
I mean,
go
ahead, Sean. Sorry, no. My opinion does not matter here. Go ahead.
I would love to hear your thoughts, though. Go ahead, you got it.
I mean, I just think of like, I have to Google, is he a Democrat or Republican? Like, what side does he lead on? Like, I'm just sitting here on Google right now, and I'm like, okay, there's a search committee, which is good. Like Grant Hill was on the search committee, bipartisan. That's cool.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I have so many questions. Is he just like a sports nut? Like, yeah.
The quick thing I Googled was
lawyer admit about this.
Yeah, quick thing I Googled. He's a Republican governor in Massachusetts, and his approval rating is unbelievable. He's highly successful. And so, look, it almost, you just want to put people who make things happen and are successful in places where that needs to happen. So, I'm hopeful. I'm optimistic for it.
Well, and the other thing that we don't quite know yet is, there's a little bit of maybe some old school approach to NIL and some new school approach to NIL. And I think a lot of it has to depend on what your personal experiences are and personal beliefs. And I don't think we know yet. Like, what side of the NIL fence does he lean towards? And that, there's no way to know that. We just have to kind of wait and see. But it is interesting to watch a lot of these sports governing bodies turn to different industries for their executive leadership. This is one really great example. The other example we were talking about today at lunch, Sean, was, the former CEO of Rock Nation becoming I think is a Big 12 commissioner.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a pretty big shift from, this massive entertainment agency to being a commissioner of a conference that's responsible for governing, a bunch of member institutions. So it will be very interesting to watch.
Yeah, I think the bottom line is this news just dropped today. There's going to be a lot more that comes out from it, and I'm sure we'll be talking about it much, much more. Shifting,
I think, all we want to see, my last take is like, all we really want to see is like continuing to the NCAA as an ally to the athletes. Right.
Yep.
I think that has to be the thing. Charlie Baker, if you're listening to this because you were doing research on NIL because you didn't know about it a little bit ago, I'm just kidding. Come on the show.
Yeah. Love to have you.
Sean, what else do you got? What else is hot?
I was just going to ask you, Steven. Well, not hot. I was going to ask you if things were a little chilly. Were they a little cold this past week? Did anything happen? Was there a 1-year anniversary that had to do with something cold happening? I don't know.
Yeah, it was my 1-year anniversary of emailing Mark Cuban. And so I like to share memories with Adam Cook because, we have a little special bond. And sure enough, Adam sent me a bunch of cold treats. I got cold brew, some cold beer that was like cold branded. What was the brand of it? It was really good.
Yeah, it was like cold packs or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I got ice cream.
Cool House ice cream cookies. Yeah.
Cool House ice cream cookies. This would be an Adam. Do we send each other treats? Sean, if you steal those off my doorstep.
I'm going to start texting Sean like, hey, I'm sending an order over to Steven. Go ahead and grab it.
What's funny is we both use the same courier service to do it. And so I get a text where it's like a delivery is coming and I'm like, like maybe on another day we can chat more about it. But you know what I really want to do, Adam? I want to go back through our text messages and see the hey, I just texted.
Totally.
Like that's what'll be funny. But no attention there. That's just a goofy funny thing that we had.
We like
Sean,
to reminisce.
What about you? What's our NIL deals of the week? Talk to us about that.
Yeah, NIL deal of the week. This one goes out to a girl named Bella Rasmussen. She is a high school football player in Laguna Beach. Became the first female in history to score two touchdowns in a single game. And for that, she just signed an NIL deal with Keywise AI. So that's a mental health app. Shout out Bella. That's just really cool. She's making things happen. She's making history, and just got to give her a shout out for it. Very cool.
And Jason and the Market Price team too. That's how that was done.
Oh, that's right.
They're doing some great work over there.
That's right.
Oh, no way. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Keep it in the family. Heck yeah. Congrats, Jason, and the team for pulling that off. Sean, what about Campus Inc. NIL merch of the week? You got anything that you're excited about?
Merch of the week, we just dropped Sincere Harris's Mr. 94 Feet, which I just think is really cool. For those who haven't seen Sincere Harris, he's an Illinois basketball player who just straps guys up on defense. He gets in a point guard's face, and that's why he's called Mr. 94 Feet. That's the length of a basketball court. And that entire 94 feet, he's just in that guy's grill. And he's a pest, man. He just gets after it. I think he broke out in the were you guys playing UCLA? Was that the game? I think it was
he came in and just turned the game around.
Oh, he was a beast. So pumped about that.
It's funny when Underwood calls him in. We obviously watch all the games, and you'll see when Underwood's getting a little pissed. He'll be like, Sincere, come here.
Locked down.
He's like, release.
Such a good kid too. After we, I just gotta shout him out. I just love to see it. After we launched it, he sent us a text message. He was like, "Thank you guys so much." It's like, man, that's so cool. I just love when I don't know. You just see kids' hearts like that.
Here.
Yeah.
And LeBron, you went to LeBron's high school, right?
Yeah. That's St. Vincent, St. Mary's.
And so LeBron gave him a retweet a couple weeks ago on having a killer game. Yep. Super cool to see our athletes doing it. So
that's awesome.
Sean, you got anything else for us?
I have nothing else other than I just want to say you guys got to make sure that you tune in next week. We're going to have Grace Berger on the podcast. Grace Berger, Indiana women's basketball star player. Her coach wore her merch on the sidelines, and we're going to get Grace's perspective on it. So it'll be pretty cool. Just a little tease.
Love it.
And we didn't talk about new schools this week. Should we just wait till next week?
Yeah, we'll
That's
keep
just gonna
stacking it
come
up.
next week.
Yeah.
We'll keep
That's right.
stacking it up. Tune in next time for the NIL show. This is another episode with Adam and Sean. Have a killer day. We'll talk to y'all soon.
See you guys.
See ya.